Welcome everyone to another edition of Stepping Up to the Plate. I'm your host, Michael Vega. I'm brandishing my new Italian charpa in honor of my friend Al Prezzuti, who dons his beautiful Italia hat. So we're of kindred spirit here today, and thanking you for joining us here on the show. Again, I want to give out a tremendous shout out to the Milton High School class of 2023. Had the honor of being there and giving shout outs to guys who came walking past me: Owen McHugh, Jack Finnegan, KJ Beckett, Liam Faraday, Priya Shaw, Mia Gilmore, who's a great friend of my son, Noel, who also got a shout out, Noel Vega, who graduated. And it was wonderful to see all these young kids get through there. And I want to also commend Principal Karen Cahill, Dr. Cahill, for a wonderful speech that she gave, and a couple of great speeches. Mia Gilmore gave a fantastic speech, but also one of my son's friends, Megan Reardon, who we've seen at Steel and Rye, and her brother Michael works there also, and but she gave a tremendous speech, and I want to tip my cap to both of them. Those kids are going to go far, really far, and they're going to make us all proud. But that's the thing that Principal Cahill talked about, was how this class was transcendent because of the fact that they were so resilient in having to deal with the issues of COVID and hybrid learning early on in their careers, and it didn't prevent them from attaining the unprecedented success that they were able to attain on the field and off of it, And I was looking at the program, and did you know that Owen McHugh was a 4-year honor roll, 4 years, and he didn't miss a single day of school for 4 years. Unbelievable. So hats off to that young man. He's going off to Williams to play football and baseball, and he had a tremendous game, Al, this past week against the North Quincy Raiders. Had 6 strong innings, 5 strikeouts in a 4-2 win over the North Quincy Raiders, first round of the Division II playoffs. The Wildcats defending state champions, so the number 1 seed. Now they're 18-3, and they move on to play against Norwood today. So by the time this airs, we'll know the result. But fabulous win, and a great performance by my neighbor, Ben Catadol, who came in a high leverage situation, got some guys on base, fought off some guys, and got a dramatic strikeout at the end to win it. So congratulations to the Wildcats. Congratulations to Brendan Morrissey. Hopefully we see more of that, and hopefully people can get out to Cunningham Park to go cheer on the Wildcats as they attempt to defend their Division II state baseball title. So congratulations all around to everybody there. And Al, yesterday I was out and about with my parents, Miguel and Olga Vega, who were here in town for my son's graduation, and we were sitting at Fowler House where my mother almost hit it for 1,600 on the keynote. Unbelievable. And so we were sitting there, and the news breaks. LIV and PGA and the DP World Tour are gonna combine. And I sat there dumbfounded. And the person I thought about, Al, was you. Because I said, darn it, didn't Al go off and predict that this was going to happen, that they were going to merge? And here it is. Like you said, the old AFL-NFL merger.
Well, it's...
How did you know, Al?
Well, it's just, if you look at 2 things. 1, money. Money was a driving factor in bringing this together. 2, the chasm between players that were once friends that were no longer friends because, you know, you had the Live over here, you had the PGA there, and you had some of the better players had moved over to the Live, Dustin and Bruce Koepka, who just won the PGA. So it comes down to why. Why would you have this split of great players when we can figure out a way, some type of a negotiation? We still don't know how it's going to work because, you know, you only have 3 rounds over in the Live and you have team. My guess is that they'll compromise somehow. Now, it's always interesting, though, to listen. See, this is why I shut my ears to people who talk about these things. 2 weeks ago, Jack Nicklaus was talking about the PGA this, Brandel Chablis, you know, PGA this, and these guys were the ones that walked away. They shouldn't be allowed to play in the World
or the
Cup
Ryder
and,
Cup
and the Ryder Cup and all of that stuff. And this morning I read that Jack Nicklaus said this is the best thing that could have happened for golf. Still not knowing how it's all going to play out, but it comes down to money. Now, and we talked about this a little, my only concern with this whole thing is the public relation component of the Live tied to the Saudi money.
Correct.
Can have a bad effect on the PGA.
Well, it will sully and tarnish the reputation,
could.
Or the lily white, pristine reputation of the PGA, you know, going forward here. Because now, you know, the thing that to kind of add on to what you were talking there about, Al, was when this came out. Apart from thinking about you, I thought about, man, what about Rory McIlroy? How's he feeling today? He must be feeling a little bit livid about the fact that the Live golf guys are going to be playing alongside of him now. Yeah. And it's going to create a little bit of discomfort, especially, say, for example, when him and Patrick Reed have to share the tee again. And these two guys are not friendly. There's some rivalries that developed during this polarization of the game. And now, you know, they can cloak it all they want into, oh, well, we're unifying, you know, this fractious elements of the game and putting it all under one umbrella now, and we're going to move forward with the game. But here's the problem, and you just addressed it. The money that comes from the Saudis is dirty money. People look at it as dirty money because the Saudis have been implicated in being behind the funding of the terrorist activity that led to 9/11.
Well, I mean, you're also
talking about, and then
you're also
Khashoggi,
talking about human rights.
Yes,
money.
Human rights violations. The murder of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi, and that was not, you know, at least they were not held into account for that. And so it's created a lot of issues. Now, Al, what do PGA's partners, their corporate partners, have to say about all of this? Well, because you know what? They're going to get sullied a little bit.
Well, my guess is that, and this is just a speculation because I don't know, that if there's a significant amount of kickback from sponsors that say, because the PGA gives a lot of money away. I mean, they give a lot of monies to human rights organizations and whatnot. If they lose a lot
charitable
of their
organizations,
charitable too. Yeah. But I mean, if they lose a lot of that because of the Saudi the money, the Saudi influence, it wouldn't surprise me if they, over the years, back out of the money. In other words, the PGA said, we don't need your money to support.
Right, but it's a lot of money that caused Jay Monahan to do a complete 180.
Well, he did a 180, and I saw his announcement, and you know, it's kind of interesting in a way. This is the bigger problem. There's the Mickelsons, the Dustins, and left for $10 million, not even to play, just to leave. Well, and now they're coming back to the group. So all the players on the PGA said, if I had known that this was going to happen, we all would have went. And then we would have got all this money, played less golf to make more money, and then come back to the PGA. Right. So there's a lot here.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at the guys who towed the company line for the PGA, right? Were as righteously, expressed their righteous indignation about how these guys had, defected to this tour and left them. And they said, well, we're going to stand here with PGA, the Justin Thomases, the Scotty Schefflers, Xander Schauffele, Rory McIlroy. Okay, he was one of the loudest proponents. Don't they feel a little bit like they've been sold out, sold down the river a little bit?
Their
integrity has been impugned a little bit.
Had Mickelson, Koepka, Dustin, and the Australian kid there, the great player. Cameron Smith. Yeah. Had those guys went, this thing would have never happened as quickly as it's happened. You can't have a Brooks Koepka and a Dustin Johnson. Forget Mickelson, he's probably on the back nine, as we say in golf. But Cameron Smith, those guys could win on the PGA Tour any time, any weekend.
Yeah.
So to have those guys over here, I think caused to say, we got to get this thing together quicker.
Right.
Had they not done that, it would have taken a longer time.
Well, I think we were starting to see a line, a demarcation point, starting to develop with more and more live guys threatening for and some winning majors, and then giving, I guess, validity to the live tour, and then them calling into question whether or not that they were deserving of Ryder Cup points.
Well,
for some of their tour wins.
The interesting thing is the guy that's causing the problem on the live side is Mickelson. He's on the back nine, so again, as I said,
he's costing them a lot of money.
Well, he said that
doing much. Right?
McIlroy really would do very well in the live. The problem is nobody wants him.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, he already cast his lot.
Mickelson's a big mouth too.
Oh yeah. Well, and the other thing you got to remember, Al. Mickelson went over there because they canceled his gambling debts.
Yeah, well,
that was a significant amount of money.
Huge money.
Yeah, and they canceled that debt.
Dustin's a great player and everything, but Dustin's got a side life. I mean, he enjoys the fact that he's got time with his family and only playing 3 rounds of golf and only, I forget how many
none of them will beat balls like, say, for example, Vijay Singh did when he was on the tour.
Yeah,
or Tiger, or any of those people who had to do that just to stay on top of their games.
Personally, myself, I think it's good for good. When it happened, I thought that this is so similar to what's happened in almost every pro organization, where, NFL, AFL, and then those things merge. It has to happen when talent is displaced. And I didn't know it was going to happen this quickly.
Well,
I don't think anybody did.
But are you going to have a contraction now because you have so many players in each tour, and is this going to, not dilute the product?
No.
But will
it'll
it affect
enhance the product anyways, because now you've put some of the best players, a lot of the good players over in the LAV side. Plus, now you're going to have the Ryder Cup, and you're going to have all of these things in the DP Tour. You're going to get all of this stuff put together, and the best players are going to be playing. The argument that was
will we
out
see
there,
more PGA players playing in those other like live events? Or
it depends. I don't think enough has come out as to how it's going to work.
Yeah.
But I think you'll find that on the big events, which is what golf has become. Let's be honest about it. Who wins? You're watching the Jack Nicklaus tournament in Muirfield. I was pulling for the kid, not the one that I like. Victor Hovland. Don't get me wrong, but I was pulling for the other kid who was ahead. Great putter. He misses a putt on 18, which would have allowed him to win. Then it went to a tie, and then he loses on the next hole on a putt. Yeah. I mean, we're not talking a tap in. It was a 18, 20 footer, but he had been hitting those things all day, and I would have liked to have. He had never won on the tournament, on the tour. I would have liked to have seen him win. But that's what golf is all about. Yeah. Anybody can win on a given day it depends on the course that they play. And, you get guys that can hit the fairway a lot. And Muirfield is that type of. The PGA is the type of thing. If you don't hit the fairway, you're not going to win.
No.
The Masters, if you can't putt, you're not going to win.
No.
So I think getting everybody back together is going to be a good thing. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
And it was interesting to note last year at the U.S. Open here at the Country Club in Brookline that the reception of some of these live golfers, such as Phil Mickelson, wasn't as icy as I thought it might be.
Well, it was icy.
They were more receptive for Mickelson. People were, I think,
like Mickelson.
Politely receptive because I think, in this area, the golf fandom is acutely aware, and I think they're very appreciative of what he had done, and so they are respectful in that respect.
You got to remember one thing. Mickelson was the modern day Palmer, Arnold Palmer. He stopped. He signed autographs. He's a likable kid.
Yeah.
His image is somewhat tarnished now. Because of what he's done.
I think so. Yeah.
You know what? I think at the end of the day, I think a lot of people deep down inside said, I thought it was going to happen, but I didn't think it was going to happen this quickly.
Yeah.
How it all plays out, I think is good for golf.
You know, and you look back, Al, about the U.S. Open at Brookline. What a great tournament that was, you know. And Matty Fitzpatrick, a kid who, literally stayed with the family in Jamaica Plain, you know, and he won there the last time he had been there. He won as an amateur. He won an amateur.
Yeah.
And then comes back to Brookline, stays with the same family, and wins the U.S. Open in an unbelievable, stretch run against Will Zalatoris, who was an up-and-coming. Will Zalatoris is injured right now.
Yeah, he's injured. But if you think about it, all golf talks about now are the majors. And when you have the PGA, the Masters, and the British Open, the U.S. Open, all of that stuff, the top players on the live side, or the players who are the best, considered the best, all would have finished somewhere in the top 15 on the PGA side in the majors.
Yeah.
They're just that good players, the Koepkas, the Johnsons, the Cameron Smiths. And so for somebody to come along as a young kid like, what was his name, McCarthy, I guess, that was playing in the PGA that lost to Hovland.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have been in that mix maybe if those guys were there.
Yeah.
So look at Koepka's winning the PGA was also an instigation of this whole conversation.
I think so too.
I think.
And then there's also the conundrum that was starting to form with the fact that you had people concerned about the composition of Ryder Cup team.
Right.
You know,
is it PGA versus LIV?
Right.
Is it the United
World
States
Tour
versus
right.
And this is an argument that'll go on. My personal belief was that you were talking about the best in the United States versus the best of Europe.
In Europe, right.
And it isn't the PGA versus the LIV.
Would Rory play with those guys in England, or would he sit out that one?
Well, it's like what Rahm said. Rahm's on the PGA side. He said, look at Sergio Garcia has probably won more events than any golfer when he was on the PGA side playing in the Ryder Cup, and he's not in it.
Right. He looked to be out.
So, anyways, I have to wear my sunglasses because I have to tell you, for this point, I don't want anybody to recognize me.
You want to be incognito now?
Yeah, I watched the Red Sox last night.
El Incognito?
Why? Don't ask me why I watch it.
Why?
I'll tell you, the pitcher for the Red Sox, if we seg to the game, he's a pitcher. He's a 2, maybe a 1 for the Red Sox right now.
Paxton?
Oh.
Yeah.
You know, he got out of that first inning, he struck out 9 guys.
I tell you, I was very impressed from the get-go with James Paxton. His command, his ability to locate and just bury batters
and he's a lefty.
With strikes.
And he's a lefty, which is a positive because you don't see that many lefties.
But, you know, unlike Chris Sale, his delivery, you know, his arm's not way out there, and he's not putting a lot of stress on the elbow.
Well, when they first signed Chris Sale, that was the big problem. You could give the guy like that a lot of money that everybody said was going to have arm troubles because he always wanted to go 7, 8 innings. You know what? A lot of people are very critical of Chris Sale, but I will say this about him. He's in front of the press. This was
he's accountable as the day is long.
He's a decent guy in terms of, he said, look at this hurts me. I mean, I worked hard to come back and to have that, he said, I felt it in the second inning, but I thought I could get through it. I went to the third inning, he said, and I said, I know I'm not going to get through this thing. You know,
do you think it's a little wear and tear? Or?
Well, it probably is, but he's an athlete who was in the prime, as difficult a lefty to hit against as anybody.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, you know, it always reminds me of Bobby Orr when I think of the greatest separated athlete from the next guy in any sport I've ever seen. Right. I mean, because you can argue Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain, you can argue Marciano Ali, you can argue Ted Williams, I can go through all of that. Bobby Orr was here and you don't want to put him with a Gretzky because Gretzky was a forward, he's a defenseman. Nobody even close to him. And yet he only played 10 years.
Unbelievable.
You know, because he had the knee injuries. Maybe in the 2020 timeline, they would have treated those injuries that he had a little differently, and he probably would have had a longer career. But, you know, you see a guy like Sale, who was is tough. He was a great pitcher to watch. When it was like Clemens in a way, you know. I mean, you knew when they pitched, they were going to either win or come close to winning.
Yeah. Now, Al, looking at the Stanley Cup playoffs, has the bubble burst on the Florida Panthers?
Well, we'll find out down in Florida. If they win their 2 games down there, then it's a 3-game series, and 2 of them would be in Vegas. But that doesn't matter. If it gets to the 7th game,
if they lose that game.
If they lose one of those 2 games, then I think Vegas is going to win because they're a gritty team and they play great defense.
Yeah.
Funny, you know, this is what wins is goaltending and defense, and Cassidy is good with that. Yeah. So, you know, getting back to the Red Sox again, they let Tapia go, which was wrong. I mean, why you let a guy who's hitting .280, who steals bases and is
he's an athlete, he gives you some utility.
And not let Valdez go back down the Pawtucket, or Tristan Casas, who's not ready as a hitter. I don't care. He gets a hit and everybody goes,
he had a deep drive for a single that loaded the bases.
I mean, come on. To hit 180, you know, it's funny. He gets 2 hits and he's hitting 190.
Is it time for Bobby Dahlbeck to come back?
Well, Dahlbeck's hitting 290 down in Woo, but it's the Woo Sox. It's not major league pitching. But the point I'm getting at is, you know, they bring Christian Arroyo back, and they had to let somebody go, but there were plenty of guys that they could have let go. Duran's name came up, incidentally, because Duran was hitting 480. He's hitting 2-something now.
And then he's struggling in the field
who is
a
it?
little bit.
Yeah. Who was this guy?
Yeah.
And Kiki, you know, Kiki's starting to get a hit.
They probably had more options
often.
with Tapia. That's probably the
I think Tapia should have stayed, and I think Valdez should have went back to the Woo Sox to make room for Arroyo. But, you know, the Red Sox are a 500 team at best. In a league that they're going to finish last if they play 500 baseball.
In a division,
in that division.
Well, so, Al, here's the thing. I saw something on Twitter. It was retweeted. It was a Red Sox fan who sent an email to the Red Sox after they, I guess, put the arm on him for season tickets. Yeah. And he wrote a scathing reply about not having any interest in renewing his season tickets up until he saw from the Red Sox that they were committed to spending the money to win. Yeah. And he says, I haven't seen that this year. And he says, thank you. I'll decline this season ticket offer. I'm wondering how often that is happening.
I'm going to tell you, I went to the first Red Sox game of my life back in the 1950s. I hate to say that, 1954, 55.
Yeah.
The other day, I got a call from somebody who said, look, I got 2 tickets for Monday's game. Do you want them? And for the first time in my life, I said no.
Wow.
I mean, they had no interest to go to the park and spend $60, $70 to park.
Yeah.
Another $50 or whatever to have something to drink and eat to see this team, which you don't even know who they are.
To give you agita when you go home on your ride home.
I get agita all the time anyway, for other reasons.
Yeah. And now the NBA Finals, Al, are at an impasse, 1-1. The Miami Heat showed me something there in Game 2.
Well, I'll tell you, everybody that I talked to, Denver, and I said to them, watch out for Miami. Yeah. Watch out for Miami because they've got a great coach.
And they got a pretty resilient team, man.
They got grit.
Yeah, they do.
And Jimmy Butler, I'll tell you.
I'll take him. I would pair Jimmy Butler and Marcus Smart on the same team.
Well, Butler's a better player. Well, I'll tell you one thing about Butler.
You know why? They share the same Texas DNA, baby.
I'll tell you one thing about Butler, though.
Yeah.
He is a leader. You can see it. He sets the tone for the other players.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is if they get a little too, he calms them down. If they're not up, he brings them up. He's a I would say probably one of the most underrated superstars.
Yeah.
Because you never hear him. Everybody talks about LeBron, this one, da. Let's see what happens
you know what he
down
is?
in Miami.
You know what he is? unassuming.
Yeah.
He's unassuming in his leadership
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Denver.
The
goes
one time
down
he
and-
got drawn out, was by Grant Williams when they went face to face,
Yeah.
and he says, "Oh yeah, you're going to poke the bear? Okay, don't mess with the bull because then you get the horns, you know."
Yeah.
And he got him full. He gave him both barrels, and then like Jimmy Butler's looking at Grant Williams going, "You're too small. You can't guard me." You know?
I still have a problem watching all of basketball when you see a kid like not Embiid, but the kid for Denver, the
Nikola Jokic scored 41.
But he's charging half the time. He's pulling into. I mean, they did this with Jason Tatum in the Celtics
they
series.
do this all the time.
But
Embiid, Giannis, everybody
They all
was
do
like
it.
going in low.
But
You
I
know
mean,
who got called on it?
How do
for
you
the first
know
time?
when somebody goes up like this?
Yeah.
Okay, and he blocks a shot, they go, "Oh, that's a great block." And then if he goes in a little, like Jason Tatum puts his shoulder into guys,
Yeah.
they don't call it. And Gundry goes, "Now that's what you got to do. You got to put your shoulder in." I mean, when we
That's
were
a
players,
foul.
you couldn't do that.
That's a foul.
But
And you know
I
what
don't
else? How many times, Hal, do we see them take not just 2, sometimes 3 steps
Oh, please.
all the time? You know, and so it's
I'm actually pulling for Miami to win, but I think
Really?
Denver's going to win.
okay. Yeah,
when they
I'm
say-
still thinking Denver's going to win.
I
still
do
think
too,
Denver's gonna
but
win.
I wouldn't be surprised if they win.
I think Denver
in
has a lot
5.
more firepower. Really,
They do, but I wouldn't be surprised if Miami wins. And I wouldn't be surprised if Denver wins in 5. It's one of those things for me that I watch it and I say, well, you know what? If Miami pulls up, I'm going, that's the team that beat the Celtics. If the Denver wins, then I'd say Denver's a better team. So, I mean, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. But
Yeah.
And on the NHL, Florida doesn't look like the same team. Why? Because they can't get through the defense of Vegas.
Which is extraordinary.
And the Bruins defense
I mean, because
fell
I
apart.
mean,
Hampus was
Matthew
hurt.
Tkachuk was the guy that was like
Yeah.
just going through people like a hot knife through butter. You know,
I think they're as good or a better team than Vegas.
what would you have or could have you imagined the Bruins making it all the way Stanley Cup to face
Yeah.
the Vegas Knights?
That would have been something.
That would have been
Well,
the
Sullivan
storyline.
from the
storyline.
Globe,
Yeah.
she had an article the other day I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
And she said, if you're a Bruins fan, who do you vote for? The team that knocked you out,
Yeah.
or the coach that could have brought
Taken
you, a
you
Stanley
back
Cup?
there,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So it's amazing. I mean, I don't care. I'd rather see Florida win than Vegas, although I like Cassidy.
Yeah.
I was sorry to see him go, except that he wasn't really good with certain
Well,
players.
Al, I mean, who knew it? Florida, South Florida, now the hub of the universe, the sporting world. They're going to have Stanley Cup Finals and an NBA Finals.
Yeah,
down there.
both of them are down. Well, one's
Down
down,
there.
1, the other
Yeah.
one's down 2. So
Unbelievable.
that's what makes sports unique.
Yeah.
You can't predict. I mean, you don't know, and especially in big games. Look at that kid missing a putt after all he did was they talked about him all week. The best putter on the tour, the best putter on the tour.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, you want to go 10 foot
Yeah.
for
that's
winning
usually a gimme putt. That's usually a
for
gimme
them.
putt. Yeah.
For us, but then you put money on it
Yeah.
and a title.
now you're
The hole gets
yeah.
this big.
Yeah. Along with other bodily parts.
Yeah, well, amazing.
All righty, folks. Well, that's going to do it for us. On that note, we want to thank everyone once again for joining us. I want to send another heartfelt shout out to the Milton High class of 2023. Job well done, everybody. All righty, that'll do it for us today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Michael Vega. Look forward to seeing you here next time on Stepping Up to the Plate. Take care.